right, welcome everybody to the for me, the vacation edition of Under the Dome. I'm coming to you from Orange Beach, Alabama. Roll Tide.
Oh
No.
my God!
Well, I could have said go
Well,
Tigers, but been Auburn Tigers in this regard.
Well, if this is your vacation edition, then this is mine. Still working my ass off edition.
Oh, I'm still working my ass off. I mean, you don't think work's going to go away just because I'm on vacation? No, that's the beauty about 21st century working now. They can get you with a cell phone. They can get you with I got my own laptop over there. They'll get me. So
that reminds me of the meme that I saw the other day. I called into work and told them that I couldn't make it because I'd been arrested. Would you believe that they came and bailed me out and made me come to work?
I like the one that says, can you work on Saturday? Yeah, I can, but, I have to rely on public transportation, so it's kind of slow, so I might be a little late. Well, how late will you be? I'll be in on Monday. So,
yeah, I like that.
All right. I'm your host, Alan Ulrich. I know everybody knows that. I'm here with Sean Williams, my co-host, and then our other co-host now, Mr. Bob Rose. How you doing tonight, Bob?
Alan, Sean, I'm doing great. Viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. I know I'm going to have a blast with you guys, and football is finally in the air. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, we are now, a week and a day away from the official start of Saints training camp. I think they show up on Wednesday, have their conditioning and all that kind of stuff on Thursday, and then the first practice, all those shorts and shells, might be the Friday or Saturday. So, yeah, we're right there. We're right there. So, Sean, how are you doing tonight? Since I didn't ask you, I just asked Bob right out.
I'm doing good, man. Still good times, bad times, but I'm gonna make it.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear it. All right. So, as usual, whenever we get Saints news in July or June, it's never good. We got some good news. A couple weeks ago at Ryan Ramczyk extension. Marcus Williams did not sign an extension, so he will be playing under the franchise tag this year. And then we get hit with the whammy of not only did David Onyemata, who we're counting on this year in the defensive line, get test positive for performance-enhancing drugs. I'm not going to say what it is, but he got slapped with a 6-game suspension. Which is longer than I thought it would be. I thought it would be 4 games. Bob, why was it 6 instead of 4? Did they count this as a second offense?
Yeah, it is counted as a second offense, guys. And that's when news about Onyema's suspension first broke. In fact, David himself broke the news, via Instagram and Twitter, and the news media lines just picked up and ran with that. It wasn't immediately known how long it was. He didn't say how long it was, but we were all fearful that it would be counted as a second offense because he did get zapped. I cannot remember whether it was last year or 2 years ago. He did get zapped with a 2-gamer. Was it 2 years, Sean?
Yeah.
But it was a 2-game suspension then, if I recall. So the 6th game, of course, as long as he has fleur-de-lis on the side of his head, he's going to get slapped with the maximum. And, shame on him. I realize that when you're talking about, professional athletics or even Olympic caliber athletics, the list of do's and the list of do's is very short, and the list of don't takes is ridiculously long. And I have firsthand knowledge of the Olympic drug testing protocols, at least back in '96. I saw them firsthand. And I mean, I could tell you some of the things on there are ridiculous. So I can only assume that the same is true with the NFL, guidelines. But these players are millionaires. They pay people hundreds of thousands of dollars, trainers, medical staff, their own personal medical staff. It is 100% their responsibility to know what goes in their body. So nobody's ever going to accuse David Onyemata of cheating or anything like that. It was just a dumb mistake, and it cost the team dearly because remember they lost Sheldon Rankins and Malcolm Brown this offseason. That was already a big blow to an extremely deep defensive tackle core. One of the major reasons why this defense did so well last year. I thought they were going to be okay with Onyemata and Shai Tuttle starting. As long as some of those young depth guys, stepped up and performed well. But now they really got to step up because Onyemata being out 6 games, that's a huge blow to this defense.
Yeah, that's 2/3 of the season. I mean, or a third of the season.
It's a little bit more than a third, because you're talking about week 7. When is that bye? Is it week 5?
I think so.
Right in front of me. It is week 6.
Week 6. Okay.
Yeah, they got. These are the games that they'll be without Onyemata. Green Bay at home, at Carolina, at New England, at home against the Giants, at Washington, their bye week, and then at Seattle.
Oh man, and that's just a killer. That really is because. I knew the bye week was going to be one of those weeks. So I don't know if it counts as 6 games or 6 weeks.
I don't know.
I think it's games.
So that would be mid-season before he comes in. Even with a 17-game schedule, it's mid-season. And, this reminds me a lot of the Star Caps story with Will Smith, Deuce McAllister, who was the offensive lineman? Wasn't Wally Williams? Who was he? Jamar Nesbitt. That's who it was. Jamar Nesbitt. But Jamar Nesbitt and Nesbitt actually served a suspension, but I think Smith, McAllister, and I think it was Charles Grant was the other one. All fought it and Deuce ended up retiring, never serving his suspension, and I don't think Will Smith ever did. But it was a diuretic they were taking to make weight, and it came up on the test. It's one of the products, and they were like, well, Star Caps was okay. No, it wasn't, because if you read the ingredients, one of the ingredients is one of the things that the drug test catches. And, it's basically what happened with Onyemata.
These guys know this. They know that. Yeah. They know what they are or are not taking, and whether it's illegal or not. Mm-hmm. I don't feel sorry for him. He did, like Bob said, he did something stupid.
Well, it hurts us though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at if it's 6 full games, you're looking at Halloween. Tampa Bay at home is the first game he's back for. If it's 6 weeks, he could be back for the Seattle game, the Seattle trip. And again, even if he comes back those 2 weeks, you're talking, you're hoping he's in ideal shape still.
Right. It takes 2 or 3 games to get those guys into game shape.
Yeah. Yeah. So, now you're talking about the Tennessee Titans game, November 14th, that he'd probably be ready to go at full strength against Derrick Henry, no less.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Yeah, I know. And I think he didn't knowingly use it, but it was an ingredient in a product he used, and he should have known.
That's exactly what he claims.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that gets flagged every time. Just like I said, it reminds me of Star Caps. Star Caps was a way to help them lose body fluid so they can make weight, because Deuce always had a weight problem. Will Smith had a weight problem, and I know Charles Grant had a weight problem on the team. And you're not making weight, you're getting fined. So you're going to cheat a little bit. You're going to take something that you think is going to help you pig. Basically that's what it is. So,
but like you said though, this really, really hurts because
Yeah.
you're looking at quite possibly not only Onyemata not being there, but Lattimore as well. Not for 6 games, but
Yeah.
I expect probably 2 game suspension.
Yeah. Lattimore, I don't know. I don't know how long he'll be gone. And I don't know. Well, we don't even know if he'll be gone. It's weird because to me, the more time that passes, because Onyemata was boom, we heard about it the next day, or that day they announced a suspension. They haven't said anything about Lattimore yet. We're all just assuming the worst. I don't know what his suspension will be if there is one.
Like Bob said earlier about Onyemata, probably the biggest reason that I expected is because that fleur de lis is on the side of his helmet.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, Bob, I saw you wrote an article about this. Who steps up in that spot? Do they bring somebody in, or who do you think steps up if they don't sign anybody?
I mean, they have a lot of young tackles in the building. I think most of us, and I know the coaching staff, expect some big things out of Shy Tuttle. And he's flashed some really nice potential over his first 2 years. They really like Malcolm Roach. So those are your next 2 men up. Shy Tuttle and Malcolm Roach. After that, and by the way, Tuttle and Roach, remember, were undrafted players. They brought in Lorenzo Neal Jr., who I thought had a strong chance to make the team in the first place as an undrafted rookie. Josiah Bronson from Washington. He's a second-year guy off of the Chicago Bears practice squad. Jalen Dalton. Dalton was a terrific player in spurts in college at North Carolina, but even by his own admission, he has not lived up to his potential. As a 4-star high school recruit coming into college, the potential all ACC performer and all that stuff. By his own admission, he hasn't lived up to it. So I'll be interested to see how hungry Jalen Dalton is. But I like the potential there. As far as the article you're speaking of that I wrote about, that there are some intriguing defensive tackle names still out there. I realize everybody in Saints social media world, that thinks that the real world is bad in football, thinks that the Saints can go out and get Sheldon Richardson, just because he was dangled and trade rumors earlier. That ain't going to happen, folks. Too much capital to get him, and too many other positions of need for the Saints. If they're going to make a trade, they're going to fill another position with that. The most intriguing name to people otherwise is a name very familiar to Saints fans, Geno Atkins. Former Cincinnati Bengals tackle, and of course, son of former Saints safety back in the Dome Patrol days, Gene Atkins, one of my favorite players to watch off that team, by the way. Geno's a great name, but I can't see the Saints going after him because he's been really injury plagued the last 2 years, and his performance is off a cliff. 4 or 5 years ago, like through the middle part of last decade, he was last decade's Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald took that bar and raised it, of course. But Geno Atkins was last decade's Aaron Donald. A name I would love to see bring in and torture Saints fans and offensive linemen for twice a year, for 4 or 5 years was Quan Short from Carolina. Quan, just like Geno Atkins, they just announced today that each player got cleared to begin football workouts after season-ending injuries last year. K1 has good inside pass rush capabilities, but he could stay on the field and running down too. He plays with decent leverage for a man his height, and of course plays with very good strength. And again, Saints fans, I don't need to tell you what a disruptor he was. If you don't want to go for a big name, 2 guys that are really familiar with the system and I think that could contribute, for the Saints and be signed cheaply, is Margus Hunt, from last year. He played some fine snaps for this team, on and off the kept jumping back and forth between active roster and practice squad before the Bengals snatched him off the practice squad. Well, Margus Hunt is out there. He's a guy that can play inside or outside. And another guy, Sylvester Williams. Sylvester, I thought, should have made the team 2 years ago. He was among the final cuts, but he had a nice preseason. All of those guys are in their early 30s, though. In the case of Hunt and Geno Atkins, I think they're 33, 34. So, again, even if you bring any of those guys in, the guys you have in the building now, they need to step up. And also, Cam Jordan, Tanoa Passanio, and even Peyton Turner, they all have the capabilities to play inside on some alignments, specifically pass rush downs. You don't want them inside on short yardage and base situations, but they do have some versatility with what they have on that defensive line now.
And Sean, I'm gonna go to you just in a second, but that was the thing I was thinking about. How much of this are we going to see, like the NASCAR package? Where you're going to see 4 defensive ends out there, because they have kicked Marcus Davenport to the inside too. Yeah. When before Rankins was healthy, Davenport played at 3 technique. So I'm really curious to see how they use Davenport and how they're going to use Peyton Turner in this defense. I think for some of these teams, and again, I was looking at the list. I was looking at some free agents too, but I was looking at the list, and for teams like when you're playing, hang on here, I closed it. I didn't mean to. When you're playing a team like the Patriots, or you're playing a team like Carolina, who doesn't have a great power running team, they're more of a pass-oriented team where they need speed sideline to sideline. I think you're going to see more of that, 4 defensive linemen there. The teams that I'm worried about, Seattle, Tampa, even Green Bay now. Yeah. They use a lot more power football. And I think that's where you're going to miss a guy like Onyemata. So we'll see. Speaking of Green Bay, did y'all see the story today that came out that Aaron Rodgers turned down a 2-year extension?
Yeah, I saw that. I still think we're going to see him in week 1.
Oh, I think we're going to see him week 1 too.
Yeah, but I bet my house.
I'm wondering where Rodgers is going to play next year, because I think that's a signal he wants out.
Hey, from Canada. Send his ass to the CFL.
Hey, just as I'm so confident that I bet everything I own that he does suit up for Green Bay in week 1, I would bet just that same amount that he doesn't suit up for Green Bay in 2022. And we know Aaron Rodgers is not hurting for money. He's still one of the highest paid quarterbacks. And when he hits the market, when he manipulates himself to be back on the market next year, he will be the highest paid quarterback for however recent that is. So Aaron Rodgers is not hurting for money. Aaron Rodgers is an attention whore. And this is just one more way to get he is. This is just one more way for him to get attention. There'll be a few other news tidbits before he finally reports. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't know where Rodgers will end up. I don't know if Green Bay can trade him or not. I think he has a no trade clause, so I think he's going to just demand to be a free agent, and he'll be able to pick his team he wants to go to. And I wouldn't put it past him to try and do a Brett Favre and go play for the Vikings, just so he can go rub Green Bay's face in it, kind of thing. I can't see him with the NFC East. Unfortunately, I can see him with the Saints. I don't want to see him with the Saints. I know you don't want to, but let's just say that we have a disaster at quarterback this year. I can see them, borrowing, doing a Tampa Bay and just borrowing a Hall of Fame player for a couple of seasons while they wait for whoever the future quarterback is that's coming into the building. There's a few options that they have out there. Okay. I just wanted to throw that out there because I know how much Sean loves that. All right, so we love
to shoot him in the face.
Anna wants to know what's up with Quan Alexander. Sean, did you hear the news about Quan?
I did. He was in the facility today, but to my Bob, you may have to correct me on this. He did not leave with a deal.
You are correct. He was in the facility. I'm hearing conflicting reports that there are going to be more meetings with New Orleans tomorrow. Basically, what's coming out is, obviously the Saints certainly want him back, and Quan has shown strong interest in coming back. He has all off season, but he wants to gauge the market. New Orleans is doing their best to gauge Quan's market before Quan gets back out of the facilities, so they can hopefully, give him an offer that basically, as the saying goes, give him an offer he can't refuse. Because rumor has it that the Rams are the strongest suitors for him, other than New Orleans. But Seattle is in the rumblings too. Listen,
the Rams are a sinkhole.
Hey man, if the Rams want a player, listen. They lost their running back Cam Akins. Akers. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, they lost him for the season with torn Achilles. That was their number one rusher. I am willing right now to make it Latavius Murray. The only thing I ask for in exchange is Cooper Kupp. You think they'll go for that deal?
Wow. I don't think they'd go for it, but I would.
I know.
The Rams don't believe in draft picks either, so you're not going to have to worry about them asking for a draft pick.
Man,
they'll just use it to trade for somebody.
I'm telling you, I have loved Cooper Kupp since draft day. I was so pissed they got him. He is a grandson of a Saint. Jake Kupp, the offensive lineman for this original 67 Saints team. But man, that dude, I'm telling you, put him on the field with Michael Thomas. Granted, they're both possession receivers, but man, you could have me back there throwing a football to those two guys, and they're going to be catching everything that I throw.
Absolutely.
I still got a bullet left in the gun. I got one. It's just my accuracy sucks. My accuracy
I'm not going to touch
now.
that.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, that particular factory has been shut down, and all the employees have been laid off for a long time, over 20 years. So,
there's still times that I think I could run a pass route.
Yeah. And
I get up and walk across the room, and it sounds like breakfast cereal, snap, crackle, and pop. And I'm like, never mind, I'm out.
Yeah. Listen, I am convinced that I've got one in me. One, a pass route, a volleyball mat, whatever the case may be, that I have one. I will die on that spot, but I got one left in me.
Yeah.
Well, you remember the Joe Namath commercials where Joe Namath was going to come back, was a Nike commercial, and he's talking about if you wear these shoes, he's gonna be fast. And they're sitting there, he's looking at the film footage, and first off, Namath goes out to throw the football with the kids, and the kid's like, God, he's throwing the ball, hitting them and stuff like that, like it's dodgeball. So then Namath starts looking at the footage of players, and Junior Seau was still playing, so that tells you how old this commercial was. And Namath's going, he's fast. Then he saw Bruce Smith, he's fast. Goes the next guy, he's really fast, and I think Don Shula was he was still alive, but he could still walk, and he was putting in his office floor, and he goes, yeah, Joe, they're all fast now. And he's like, yeah, maybe I might pass in this comeback. So yeah, that's exactly
I could run a crossing route. Ronnie Lott's not there anymore, so
there you go.
I could run a 10 and in.
Man, I'll tell you what. But so I'm hoping Quan comes back. I because that would take care of a huge hole at linebacker.
Yes, absolutely would.
I mean, to me it seems increasingly obvious that if the Saints make a move at cornerback number 2, it's going to be after the cut down when they start looking at what players are left over. And I don't have a good feeling about that. Now we lost Onyemata for 6 weeks. They may do the same thing with defensive tackle. I don't know, but I think Bob's point is correct. I think they're really counting on those young defensive tackles to step up, and they're thinking nothing out there is better than what we have in this building.
Well, and there too, they don't have the capital to go after very many really quality guys. Because like Geno Atkins, those guys are going to demand a high price.
Yeah. Well,
they have according to my understanding, they have 11.6 million in cap space as it stands now. And a lot of these guys that they would bring in off the street, trade, you're talking a completely different story because, say in a Xavier Howard trade, which I wrote about, I don't think it'll happen, but certainly possible, something like that. You bring in a guy like that, you're going to have to turn your salary cap upside down again. But you bring in a guy off the street, most of these guys are wanting just 1 year deals because they want to hit the free agent market again next year when the salary cap goes up.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean that 1 year deal is going to be cheap, but you're also not talking about a guy, even a big name like a Geno Atkins or Richard Sherman before he went off the rails. Even guys that you would have to pay a bigger number to. I find it hard to believe that you're going to have to pay him any more than $7 million.
Well, the Jets signed that front door that guarded against our Richard Sherman, so I think there is possibility. So, but well, since you brought it up, I wanted to bring it up. I was just trying to figure out how to fit it in. The Dolphins, and that's their best cornerback, Xavier Howard. Why would they want to trade him?
Because he's a troublemaker right now. He's the fifth highest paid cornerback in the NFL. And the only reason he was the fifth is because two or three guys within the last year and a half surpassed him. He was, when he signed the deal that he's in now, and he's only coming into the third of a 5-year deal. He was the highest paid NFL cornerback. And you can understand why. He has led the NFL in interceptions 2 of the last 3 years. Each of the 2 years he's been healthy. A total of 17 interceptions in those 2 seasons. So he's one heck of a ball hawk. You have to put him up there with one of the top quarterbacks. But now he's he's threatening to hold out. He hasn't reported yet, saying he's not going to play until he gets a new deal. Miami feels like they have some leverage here because they drafted a guy last year. Josh, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name. As a first rounder. And then they signed Byron Jones from the Cowboys. Now, one of the things that I think hurt Howard was when they signed Jones for a higher yearly average than what Howard is making. And that's when Howard kind of blew his top. If it's me, if I'm the Saints or anybody else for that matter, I'm a little bit wary of a guy that you're among the highest paid at your position. And now you're holding out less than 2 years after you were the highest paid guy. I'm a little bit worried your priorities are not where they're supposed to be. But on the field, he is one heck of a player. He's in the prime of his career, just 28 years old, and you can't deny the production.
Yeah, that's my concern too. You have to give up a first-round pick for him because that's what the Dolphins are going to ask for. You're not playing this year. You're not playing. It's not Super Bowl bust like it was when you had Drew Brees in the building. And that's not a knock on either of the quarterbacks, Hill or Winston. It's the reality.
They're not Drew Brees, though. And this team is not the same team without Drew Brees.
It's not even the same team physically. They lost a lot of that depth. All the players we've talked about that are gone now. Rankins, Brown, Jackrabbit, Hendrickson. All these players that you have brought in for your depth, your veteran depth. Nick Easton, Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook. You brought these guys in to help you get to that Super Bowl. Yeah. Now you're counting on a bunch of undrafted free agents or young draft picks, rookies, to come in and step into those spots. The Quan Alexander trade was an example of a guy they were willing to rent for a year, thinking that'd be enough to get him to the Super Bowl the next year. He's not even on the team right now. So
Right.
the decision to take Howard is a decision that you're going to make, thinking to yourself, I'm going to keep this guy for 5 or 6 years. And is it worth a first-round pick to do that? Knowing that I didn't pay Marcus Williams yet. I got to pay him next year now. I still haven't come up with a deal yet for Lattimore. I don't know what I'm going to do with Lattimore. Will that first-round pick be used to replace either of those guys? Or with that first, if our season just blows up, and we end up 6-11, 5-12, something horrible like that, because our quarterback situation is a mess, are we picking in the top 10 now? We've just given it like a la the Texans, what they did. The Texans gave the Dolphins a first-round draft pick, thinking that was going to be a pick at the bottom of the draft, and ended up being a number 3 overall pick.
Yeah.
That's all the kind of things you have to put in consideration. This is not a Super Bowl bust team. This is a team in transition. This is a team with a solid core, but needs new pieces thrown in. Cheap pieces, rookies, undrafted free agent pieces because of the salary cap problems you have. So, I like the idea of Howard being on the team, but I don't think Howard's a good fit for this team right now. Not the kind of team that we are right now. I mean, Sean,
agree.
How do you feel about that? Do you see it that way, or?
Well, regardless of what happens at quarterback this year, you're looking probably the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to have to draft a quarterback. You're going to have to. Because the window on Winston and Hill will probably be closed in that time frame, in my opinion. You've got a lot of holes, and that's a real expensive option right now in more ways than one to me.
Bob, what do you have to say about that?
Listen, I agree with both of you guys about the first-round pick. You might have to use it on a quarterback next year. If you don't, then you might have to address it at cornerback. Or what about left tackle if you can't re-sign Armstead, or safety with your 34-year-old Malcolm Jenkins or your franchise tag Marcus Williams. I think a first-round pick is just too valuable. And I think I think Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis have learned their lesson. In that ilk, 2014, 15, 16. Those 7 and 9 seasons were built because, or should I say crumbled, because they were bringing in veterans for quick fixes like that. 17, 18, 19, and mostly last year, this core was built through the draft and smart free agent signings. So they've learned to value these draft picks. The question I have, and the reason why I would consider a Xavier Howard move, is if I could get away with it without giving up a first-round pick. And I wrote a piece to that, suggesting maybe a couple of starters that the Saints, one out of a couple of starters that the Saints could dangle. And some of those names were painful to Saints social media. But listen, you're not going to get something you're not going to get a first-round talent like Xavier Howard, not give up the first-round pick, and not take a hit to your core. Something's got to give. So it all depends on how comfortable that Sean Payton and that coach, his coaches feel about what they have in the building. And as far as the window on Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill, remember that Jameis is only 27 years old. Now, I'm not making some big giant reveal when I say he's at a crossroads to his career. But I feel pretty strongly that we're gonna know about 2/3 of the way into this season whether the Saints are going to have to address the quarterback position in the draft or with a priority free agent signing. But remember too, say it's Winston. and say he's balling out, say he's playing like an all-pro player, you still got to sign him at the end of the year. And that's going to cost money. It's going to cost you. If Jameis Winston is going to be your quarterback moving forward, it's because A, he's played well, but B, you're going to have to pay him $20 to $25 million a year minimum. So there's a lot of things, and if you do that with your quarterback position, then you're right back in. You're right back against the salary cap. So what are you going to need to fill those other positions of need? Not going to be free agent signings. It's going to be first, second, and third round draft picks.
Yep. That's right.
No, I totally agree with that, especially the money portion of it. When you were talking about the kind of money, I think Howard's a $12.1 million cap hit this year.
Yes.
So you're talking about the kind of money you're going to be spending on him. That's why we got rid of Jackrabbit, was because how much money he cost. That's at some point you're going to have to start bringing in the young, cheap players so you can afford to pay your core players. I mean, we paid Ramczyk, we paid Kamara, and we paid Thomas. We have to decide on Lattimore. We have to decide on Marcus Williams. So, these are guys that it's time to pay the piper for 4 years of success. This is what happens to teams.
Latt's I'm sorry to interrupt. Latt's in the last year of his deal, isn't he?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thought so.
Yeah. So
I hope he plays like it's a contract year.
I hope so too.
To be as good as he has shown himself to be, he's probably one of the most inconsistent contributors on this team, in my opinion.
He has been, but I mean,
the man doesn't show up in September. I've gone back and looked at his stats and looked at some game films, from 2017, even. His first 2 or 3 games of the year are just atrocious.
Yeah.
And if something hits, beginning of October, that switch comes on, and he plays like an all-pro cornerback.
As long as he's playing on TV.
Or covering Mike Evans. So, Anna asked a question: would spend money on defensive tackle because of Onyemata? We don't know yet. They're going to try and roll with the players they have, hoping these guys come in because, again, you don't want to end up in cap hell. You're trying to build your cap space now, but because you want to pay your core players, and we're going to have to make a decision at quarterback. If Winston, like you said, Bob, if Winston balls out, and we will know about 2/3 of the way. I think we're going to know by the midway part of the season. Honestly, I think unfortunately we're going to be in the Winston roller coaster. I think we're going to see games where he throws 4 touchdown passes, no interceptions, and then there'll be games where he throws 4 interceptions, including a pick 6 and no touchdowns. And you're just like, oh my God, what are we dealing with here? I think you're going to see that.
It's very possible that you'll see that the first 2 weeks of the season. It's not that I don't like Winston. It's not that I think that he is not capable of being the guy. But the only thing that you have to go on with him is his track record. And he's, like you put it perfectly, it's a roller coaster. Times he looks like the greatest quarterback in the league. Other times he looks like an idiot.
Well, I mean, it's a perfect storm for him, the inconsistent Winston, to come in because you lost Onyemata. You're probably going to be starting someone like Patrick Robertson or Adebo at cornerback number 2, and then I saw that shiver. And then, let's say they don't get Quan back. So now you've got Werner and probably Ellis in there at linebacker, along with or Bond. We'll throw Bond in, with Demario Davis. So you have an inconsistent defense that struggles to cover people consistently. Lattimore in September is, like Bob just said, struggles, and then he looks like an all-pro in October. Well, look who you're playing now. You're playing the Green Bay Packers, so that's going to be a shootout. You're going to be playing. Hold on, I keep closing my roster because I'm doing stuff here. You're playing the Patriots, who are going to take away what you do best.
Yeah.
So what is he going to take away? He's going to take away Alvin Kamara. So you're probably going to be throwing the ball a lot. You're playing the Giants. That's probably a win, but that's because Daniel Jones helps you there. But you're playing the WFT or WTF, depending on your point of view, the Washington football team. And I think Washington's going to have a great defense.
Yeah,
so you're probably going to be looking at a lot of shootouts in those games. So if you got Winston out there playing a shootout game against defenses that are pretty good against the pass, like the Patriots, like the Washington football team, like the Packers, you're going to, that's a perfect storm for the inconsistent Winston to show up. So I mean, it's going to be tough sledding. It really will be. And the Saints defense won't be able to bail him out like they bailed out an inconsistent or struggling Taysom Hill last year and 2 years ago with Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy Two Gloves.
Yeah, the 12-10. I'm thinking about the 12-10 win over Dallas is a good example of that. Even the Seattle game. Yeah, the Seattle game. So, there's two games.
Where Seattle contributed to their own demise as much as you contributed to your success.
They did. But, guys, even week 2 at Carolina, Christian McCaffrey is back, and we already know what DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson can do. Now, granted, you have Sam Dumbass back there tossing them. But, they're still going to make plays offensively. The book on Winston is he likes to be a gunslinger. It's what made him the first overall pick in the draft. But you're not playing these college defenses anymore, as we've seen throughout his career. So he can be, like Sean pointed out earlier, he can look like a Hall of Famer in one game.
Sorry, Anna.
And a guy that should be pumping gas another. Hell, sometimes it's quarter to quarter with him.
Yeah.
It really is.
That playoff game. The first pass he threw, I think it was the last game he played in Tampa. First pass he threw was a pick 6, and they were still in the game at the end of the game.
First pass of his career in Tampa was a pick 6, and the last play of his career in Tampa was a pick 6. And
that's probably the most consistent thing about him.
It's I'm looking at all these, and I promise this is not a Winston bash fest. It really isn't. But I'm watching.
Well, all you got to go on is what he's put on his resume, and I don't. It does not inspire confidence in me. That's just me.
That I like the guy, and I am excited to see what he can do. But he has tons of ball security and decision making issues, to answer for. As does Taysom. Both of these guys have major questions to answer. And I don't know how any of us could feel confident in either guy. That's why social media cracks me up, because you see these guys that are definitively black and white, no pun intended. Team Taysom or Team Jameis. Look. You're Saints fans. If you're Saints fans, you should be rooting for the best guy. I just need a guy to step forward. I think it's going to be Jameis. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, but I don't care who it is. It needs to be a guy that quickly distinguishes himself above the other one, so that way this offense can start to get some rhythm behind that particular player.
Exactly.
Look, here's my thing, and it drives me crazy. I get that the people who want to try and say that Winston had bad coaching, and a lot of his interceptions were because of the scheme or the fit or whatever. But when the thing that burns me up the most is they say, well, he didn't have very good receivers to throw to. He had He had Heath Evans. He had at Mike Evans. Heath Evans hasn't been playing for a long time. Mike Evans and Godfrey to throw to, and Adam Humphries, who I wanted on this team.
He had Deshaun too.
Huh?
He had Deshaun Jackson too.
And Deshaun Jackson. Right. And people forget, okay, week 1 of the 2018 season, old Fitzmagic came in and just tore that Saints secondary apart with those guys.
Absolutely.
And that's with the quote-unquote bad coaching, okay? That was before the coach they got now who won a Super Bowl. That was, Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator who tore the Saints and Dennis Allen's defense apart with Fitzmagic. The problem with Tampa has always been a lack of a consistent running game and a kicking game. They lost more games because of bad kickers.
Yeah.
Under Winston. That doesn't – so it's this idea that Winston was playing for a garbage franchise is not accurate. He had some mistakes. He had things that went wrong, but it wasn't a garbage franchise. And some of the things that he did were of his own doing.
Absolutely.
You break down the film, and a lot of it is you see mistakes he made, especially when the defense would show you one thing and then change. As soon as he snaps the ball, he looks at it and he thinks it's cover 2. They snap the ball. It's now man over, man under, cover 1, something like that. And he still throws the ball like it's a cover 2 defense, and it gets picked off because he is predetermined to make that throw and his confidence in that arm. And that's the things that get him in trouble. And that's the stuff we're not seeing in these workout videos. We're seeing the dancing footwork, which I don't understand that drill, but I it's been a long time for me. But I don't understand that drill there. I guess he's looking downfield all the time and trying to keep his mechanics. But I don't like the drill. I do understand the one where the guy was swiping the ball the whole time to improve his ball security because Taysom needs that drill. Right. That's Taysom's problem. Taysom holds the ball away from his body, or especially when he's a running back, he holds the ball too far away from his body. So I understand that drill. But, that's the kind of – I want to see the good decision-making. Don't make that throw. Take the check down. Take what the defense is giving you. You don't have to win it in one play. He's saying the right things, but he's got to show he can do it.
Absolutely.
Okay, I didn't want to get into the Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston thing, but we kind of had to because of the issues on defense this year. And there's a lot that we're going to have to see over the next 3 weeks during preseason, how this defense responds, who steps up and who makes these plays. We kind of touched on the defensive line battle. Let's look at that cornerback number 2 battle, Bob. Who are the guys we should be watching for taking P.J. Williams and Patrick Robertson out of the equation because one or both may not be on this team come, September, whatever, the first week of the season?
Sadly, guys, I think both will be on this team because of the issues that they have. If you're talking about a potential Lattimore suspension, you need as much experience, even if it's bad experience. You need as much experience in that defensive backfield as you can get. So as much as I would love to see both of them off the roster, I think Patrick Robinson and P.J. Williams have lucked their way into NFL jobs yet again. But you definitely need a couple of players that step in at cornerback. First of all, keep a close eye on what they do with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Gardner-Johnson is at his best. I call it a joker position, but it's where they move him around all around the defensive alignment. We've seen him be a disruptor near the line of scrimmage. He is one of the best slot cover guys in the league. He's capable of playing deep safety. He has solid instincts for that. but he was also an outside cornerback at Florida. That wasn't his best role, but he can do it. He's a fluid enough athlete. He could stay with most receivers. He has great understanding of opposing offenses. So I've thought all along that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, CD Deuce, CJ Johnson, whatever he wants to call himself this week. I've always thought he is going to play a lot more coverage responsibilities this year. How much of it is boundary or outside duty would depend on the guys like Patrick Robinson, Olsen Adebo. They have high hopes in this guy. And I know he has said some goofy things on social media. He's a big-time anti-vaxxer, and I'm not going to get on that soapbox. But he's caused all kinds of issues with that. Now, remember, the guy didn't play. Adebo did not play last year because he opted out. Ironically, because of COVID concerns, but that's neither here nor there. So he has not been on the field since 2019. So he has a lot to prove. Having said that, he has first-round abilities. And if he didn't opt out last year, he probably would have been drafted late first round, early second round. He's a tall guy, great ball skills. He's a converted receiver. But he's not going to beat a lot of guys in the 40, but he has good enough 40 time. And like I said, he could physically bang. He could play off coverage or man coverage. You need Paulson Adebo to compete hard to be a day one starter if this defense is going to be a success. Because without Adebo, you're counting on Patrick Robinson, P.J. Williams, or two undrafted guys I really like, Keith Washington in his second year and Bryce Thompson out of Tennessee in his first year. I like both of those guys, and I think one of them will make the roster. But you're looking at those guys more as depth, emergency depth, and special team. You don't want an undrafted guy to plug and play as a starter at any point in time during your regular season, but especially coming out of the gate. I'm interested. Certainly, all eyes are going to be on Adebo, what they do with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and I want one of those undrafted guys, Keith Washington or Bryce Thompson, to step up.
All right, so Sean, let me ask you then. Linebacker. Let's assume that they don't resign Quan Alexander. What do you think is the biggest battle? Would you say it's Zach Bond and Pete Werner? What do you think the biggest battle would be? And
I believe it's going to be. I believe it's going to be Bond and Warner. One or the other is, and I obviously Werner comes to mind, but I think if we were going to see anything significant from Bond, we would have already seen it.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, he did change positions. They kind of moved him to the weak side, which means that they're going to slide Demario Davis to the middle, where you had Alexander and Anzalone playing that spot. So I'm really curious. We only play two linebackers normally. I'm really curious to see how this plays out. Who does what and what package are they in? Because obviously Demario Davis doesn't leave the field. But, I think in that situation, you're going to see a lot of Werner in there. Werner playing the strong side, Werner playing the outside linebacker along with Demario Davis in that 4-2-5 big nickel, they like to call it, defense. I don't think you're ever going to see a situation where you have Bond, Davis, and Werner all on the field at the same time. I just don't think I can't see how that defense would set up. I do think you would see if Quan Alexander out there, I think you would see Werner, Alexander, and Davis out there together. But that's why I think the Quan Alexander signing has to happen, because I think Alexander and Davis are your most versatile linebackers.
And they play well together.
And they play well together, yes. And I think Werner has a learning curve he has to go through, much like Bond did. But I don't know where Bond fits in this defense yet, outside of just weak side linebacker in passing situations where they're going to blitz him. right now. I think he's more of a special teams linebacker at this point.
Yeah.
Bob, last one. We've talked about this before, but we might as well bring it up again. I think the other training camp battle to watch is wide receiver. Obviously, you have Michael Thomas. He's your number one guy. And I know how you feel about Traquan Smith. Traquan Smith is eternally, this will be his breakout season. And I think he's on the bubble, actually, this year. I really
I do too.
I think.
I mentioned. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just think that he has a lot to prove. I think he has to adjust. I think he's earned his roster spot so far because he's a good run blocker. But I think this is the year he's got to step up to be a consistent receiver and stop disappearing in games.
Yeah.
So who are the guys we should be watching in training camp to see if they can slide into that number 2 spot?
I think Marquez Callaway is Traquan Smith's chief competitor for the number 2 role. And I would love to say Deontay Harris, and I really do think Deontay is going to play a big part in the Saints offense, but he's not gonna be a number 2 receiver because you still have to keep Deontay relatively healthy to be your kick returner. Sean's going to use him. Sean Payton's going to use him on a lot of creative packages. Move him around, get him into open space as much as possible. Deontay is. Marquez Callaway more fits the profile of what you want in a number 2 receiver. And he showed us some glimpses of that last year. He earned the trust of Drew Brees very, very quickly. And you can't say that about Traquan Smith. Traquan has had ample opportunity to win the number 2 receiving job on a team that's been desperate for a compliment to Michael Thomas at that position, and he hasn't done it. I'm with you guys. I do think Traquan is probably going to make the roster because they like him. He's a tough run blocker, and he can take the top off of defense, which apparently we're going to see more of this year. So he does bring it. I know. I feel the same way. But, yeah, Traquan is a legitimate big play threat, but you have to scheme to get him open. We've seen that year in and year out. The only time he gets open is when there's a specific scheme to get him open. Marquez Callaway impressed everybody with his route precision last year. And remember, this was a guy coming out of Tennessee. Nobody knew how he was going to fit into the Saints offense because the book on him was he's nothing but a deep guy. He can't run routes. Well, they couldn't go deep last year with Brees. So Callaway, to contribute, he had to run precise routes. And like I said, he earned the trust of Brees really quick. 2 other under-the-radar guys. One guy's not so much under the radar because he was a rookie 7th-round pick. But I really like him is Quan Baker, the kid out of South Alabama. He's a taller guy, but he's a burner. He's one heck of an athlete, and he improved his routes and hands every year of college. So I'll be interested to see how he handles the step up in competition. Jalen McCleskey is a guy too. And Sean, I know you're an Oklahoma State guy, so I know you remember McCleskey with the Cowboys. He was a beast. He's on the shorter side. He's only a little bit bigger and a little bit heavier than Deontay Harris. But he runs great routes underneath. He's dynamite with the ball in the open field. And, of course, he has the speed. He has 4.28 speed. He can take the top off of defense. But he's another guy. You can run out of the slot. You can run outside if you move your bigger guys into the slot. And he'll make a play for you underneath. So he's my Jalen McCleskey is my dark horse. If you have McCleskey and Quan Baker both step up and play really well early on, and Callaway progresses like everybody, like I think he's going to, Traquan Smith is very much on the roster, Bob.
Well, whenever we got to talk about receivers now with the Saints, and because of the way the Saints fans are, we got to play this music in the background here. So, it's the deep ball has to be back in the game. It's Al Davis.
The Raiders.
We have the Mad Bomber back. We've got Warren Wells. Speed kills. We've got, Cliff Branch. We got Dave Casper. It's the Raiders. I mean, this is how it's like listening to the Saints fans on social media.
Yeah.
Thank God we got a quarterback who can throw the ball deep. You know, I mean, it's all I hear the whole
Yeah,
time.
he can throw it deep, but God only knows who it's going to.
Well, I mean, you know, it's like I'm watching NFL films all day long, and then it's like, you know, football has a maxim, you know, take what the defense gives you. We've always operated by a different approach. We take what we want. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, we were going deep, and you had to prove us during the game that you could stop us. You know, I mean, this is Al Davis. I mean, it's just like, where do these people come from? You know.
Meanwhile, the reality is some of those best Raider teams with Kenny Stabler and even Jim Plunkett, they would carve you up underneath too. And when the defense, what would happen? The defenses would come up to clamp down on those routes, and then boom, then you hit your plays to Clifford Branch or run goes to the post. But it's not like they went all bombs away. You're absolutely right.
Well, and you know, neither Kenny Stabler nor Jim Plunkett really threw a deep ball. They threw a lot of short stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it was you know, they would throw the deep pass when they had to, but it was mainly, you know, to Biletnikoff, short passes, and then you set up for the bomb. But I mean, these guys, the Saint social media is acting like we've got 5 burners on this team that have been just waiting, and you know, Breeze has been holding them back. So you know, my thing with this offense is, and the reason why I brought all this up, aside from my opportunity to play that song, was you know, I don't see those burners in this team. I see in this second and third receiver battle, you know, you're looking at big possession guys. Now, Callaway's got some speed, but his big thing he's got to be able to do is snatch that ball out of the air and hold on to it before he starts taking up down the field. We have seen Deontay Harris light up the scoreboard. You know, we have seen that blazing speed, but he's also, 5'7", 5'8", you know, 170 pounds soaking wet. And we're not talking like a Steve Smith or Tyreek Hill who is built like a little tank. You know, he's a wiry, a slender receiver. So, you know, we saw this past year, you know, the more you used Harris, the more susceptible he got to be injured. And I think that's the fear I have with Harris. So what I'm looking more for at these receivers is guys who can consistently catch the ball and move the chains. I'm not interested in the deep pass. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have that back in the arsenal, you know, a la the 2011 Saints. But we don't have a vertical threat at tight end. We don't know what we got with Adam Trautman. This is going to be his first year as a starter. You know, this could be his breakout year. But if you're expecting Jimmy Graham type of numbers, or if you're expecting Jared Cook type numbers, you're not going to get that. You're probably going to get on the upside of Josh Hill or Ben Watson the second time we got him. You know, someone who probably will be more of a possession, move the chains kind of tight end. And I think that's what you got really as an offense as a whole. I think your speed is really an Alvin Kamara and Taysom to an extent. And you run Harris on jet sweeps and plays where you know he's going to be wide open and he's going to run for a touchdown, not a crossing pattern or anything where he's got to go over the middle and take a big hit.
Yeah.
If you do, it's going to be in 4 and 5 receiver packages, and you know, with that 5th receiver being Kamara, where you just have that defense so spread out that you can Deontay would be relatively safer coming across the middle there. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
But I was going to ask you, Bob, and I'll ask you, Sean, as well. Are there any receivers that you are watching from other teams who might get cut loose at the end of training camp?
Sean?
No one immediately jumps to mind for me. And I haven't really spent a lot of time looking because it seems obvious to me that we're pretty much of the mindset we're going to roll with what we got.
Yeah.
And I'm really anxious to see what we're going to get out of Callaway.
Sean, Bob, do you have anybody that comes to mind immediately? I've got one name in my mind, and it's nothing more than simply just because he got in the news for being an anti-vaxxer. I think Adam Humphries is somebody to watch. Buffalo looks like they're progressing past Humphries. I mean, they're all in the digs. I believe they added some receivers this past year. I can see Adam Humphries kind of getting squeezed out. Now, he's a little bitty possession receiver, so, but, let's just say Traquan Smith, they get tired of him and they're ready to move on. I can see a guy like Adam Humphries coming in here as that third receiver, that slot guy. And
well, like you said before, I wanted him on this team for years now.
Yeah. And I just think this I don't know, his anti-vax stance, I'm not in the Buffalo market, so I don't know, but I can see how this anti-vax stance would kind of, the team's like, oh, you know what, we if we really don't need to keep him, let's just let him move on and not screw up our chances of making the playoffs by, contact tracing issues if he comes down with it, if he comes down with COVID. So,
like you guys said, the Bills already have Stephon Diggs. They're very, very high on Gabriel Davis, and after what he showed last year, is a good reason to be. And they're the ones that brought in Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
So, and that's another thing. If Sanders doesn't really distinguish himself, are you really going to want to keep a 33, 34-year-old Emmanuel Sanders as your fourth wide receiver? So maybe he hits the market again. I
would love to have him back.
Oh, yeah. And the key with New Orleans receivers, and this is why I do think Traquan will ultimately make the team, unless 2 or 3, it'd have to be multiple undrafted guys that are coming in. Really wow Sean Payton. That's so tough to do. But the reason why Traquan will probably make this team is because he knows the system. And those are the receivers that have always done well. That's why Sean Payton prefers to bring in, prefers a late draft pick or even an undrafted guy over picking up a guy off of the free agent market, because he knows the system. A guy like Emmanuel Sanders would know the system. A guy like Adam Humphries may not know it, but has played in similar systems. So those are guys that I would probably keep an eye on. Other than that, I mean, all these draft profiles that I do every year, obviously wide receiver is one of my favorite positions to do because I feel pretty strongly in my ability to analyze it. If any of those guys that I had done over the last couple of years, get released, that'll raise an eyebrow, and I'll probably be one of those social medias then. They should bring in this guy. They should bring in so and so. But other than that, I agree with what you said, Sean. I think it's obvious to me that they are very content with what they have in the building.
Yeah.
One of the guys they had listed as a Buffalo receiver who is on the bubble, who they think is on the bubble, and this is from the Buffalo writers. Alan Hearns is somebody they also had on the bubble. I'm looking at older veteran players that you probably could get fairly cheaply. Because, they don't have a spot on the roster. They're going to get squeezed out by younger, cheaper players.
And the guy that used to play for Dallas too.
Who's that? Des Bryant?
No, the white guy. He's still in Buffalo.
No,
I can't. I'm drawing a blank.
So am I.
Oh, you're talking about hang on. Yeah.
All three of us? Come on.
I kept saying Adam Humphries. Was I right about the guy who didn't want to be vaxxed? Might have been the guy I was thinking of then, not Adam Humphries, but it is the guy who was with Dallas.
Golly, went to SMU.
Hang on, I got him. Yeah, I got him. Hang on here. It'll come to me.
Cole
Beasley.
Cole Beasley.
Yeah, I was saying Adam Humphries, but I think Cole Beasley is the one I think that said he didn't want to be vaccinated.
I wanted us to pursue him when he was leaving Dallas.
Yeah. Let's see.
Well, what about a guy like Willie Snead? If Willie Snead doesn't, he's with the Raiders now.
Yep.
The Raiders have all those young receivers.
Yeah, it was. I said Adam Humphries, and I should have said it was Cole Beasley. It was Cole Beasley who didn't want to have the vaccine. That was my mistake.
I'd take either one of those guys, actually, Humphrey or Beasley.
Yeah, because Cole
they're both
Beasley's
tough as nails, and they have some of the surest hands in the league.
Yes. Yeah. He's just very short, and that's how I was thinking of Cole Beasley.
But he makes it work though.
He does. Yeah. I think Adam Humphries is now with the Washington football team. So
I believe you're right. Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So we got a training camp in a week. I think we'll look at a couple other positions of strength. And there's not many left, but we'll look at on offense.
That'll be a short show.
Running back and wide receiver. Not wide receiver, running back and offensive line. We'll look at those two positions next week and talk about guys that, we know who the starters are going to be and who the number one backup is going to be, but guys to keep an eye out for in training camp to see if they have a shot at making a team. Like Will Clapp, for example, somebody who I think is firmly on the bubble in that offensive line just because there's so much talent on that line. And running back, I know you like Tony Jones a lot. So, next week we'll talk about those positions and what are the odds that, some of these guys maybe either get picked up by another team or knock off a veteran who's been there ahead of them and keep them, keep a job on the roster. It's somebody to look at for next week. Thank you guys for sticking with us. Bob, is there anything you're working on right now? I know you got a piece coming out seemingly every day, but
pretty close. Pretty close until I go into radio blackout mode for the wedding, which will probably be a day or two before the ceremony and go a day or two after. My teammates for the Saints News Network, Kyle Mosley and John Hendricks especially, laughed hysterically when I said I might go a couple days after the wedding without. They do believe that going only a couple days will be a quick way to a quick divorce. So we'll see how that works out. But in any case, just the kind of topics that you just mentioned, Alan and Sean, and I've tried to cover it at length during the whole off season. But dark horse contributors to this team, guys that that you might not have heard of that could knock a veteran onto the roster bubble, things like that. And the obvious, John Hendricks is handling the position by position training camp preview for the defense. I'll be handling the offense. Of course, I tackled everybody's favorite position, quarterback today. I haven't decided yet whether which position I'll hit for tomorrow. Which means I'll probably get a late start to the morning. But yeah, I'm trying to hit at least one position every day, along with whatever comes across my evil little mind in the process.
All right, and Sean. I know you're not writing anything right now, but what are you looking forward to for next week in training camp once training camp starts?
Football.
Make it simple.
Last year, for so many reasons and in so many ways, was just, I hate to say it this way, it just did not seem like football. You open the season. The Saints opened the season playing in an empty Superdome. That just, I'm ready to get the sense of normalcy back to it, so that it can be what it always has been.
Yeah.
And obviously, training camp is going to be the first step towards that.
Yeah. All right, I'm being thrown out of this room right now. I'm in the main room in this condo, and everybody else has been in the bedroom, and they're like, "All right, it's time to go. We want to take over the front room." So, and- yeah, I know. So, all right. So we're thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.